Hey people of the VC, it's cloudy and I've got something a little different today. No vinyl in this video, but I was sitting here, supping a brewdog, listening to some CDs I picked up recently and thought I had quite a bit of stuff that wasn't vinyl related that you guys might be interested in. So what the hell, let's do a video. Let's start off though. You've probably seen certainly Scott, the Rock Scout and Metal Mickey show their copies of Tales from the Dead Wax. Probably the last person that ordered one of these to show this now. I worked out, trying to work on a deal with Andy to act as a hub for the UK folks. So he sent everything to me and I distributed it out. And for some reason, Andy thought I was doing him a big favour, but really I was just trying to get hold of the comic book nice and quickly myself. But he threw in a couple of extras as well. So he threw in a couple of extra copies of this. So I'll decide what I'm going to do with those. But if anyone from the UK wanted one and didn't get a chance, then let me know and we'll work something out and make sure Andy gets the money for the comic book at least. So we threw a couple of extra things. So we got he gave me one of his posters, which is great. Unfortunately, got a little bit creased in the packaging, but as you can see from this, it's not really noticeable. I think if that gets put in the frame, when it gets put in the frame, it will look absolutely fine. Yeah, and he threw this in as well. Little piece of his artwork as well, King Diamond. Now, if you'd have said this to me about 8 months ago, Andy, I probably would have said, "Oh, I don't really like him," but I am coming round to Merciful Fate and King Diamond. It's been a long, drawn-out process, but I'm getting there. But yeah, magazine is fantastic. The stories in here are absolutely brilliant, really well illustrated, and a nice little collection piece. I don't really collect comics, but you know, when I heard Andy was doing this, I had to have a copy. Also sent me a nice little note. I'm not going to read it out, but it's kind of along the lines that apparently when apparently birds suddenly appear every time I'm near, you know, that sort of sentiment. So thank you very much, Andy. You didn't have to throw in that extra stuff. I was happy to just try and make it a bit easier for you to post out things to the UK, but very much appreciated. Right, let's get into some. So I've got some CDs, I've got some books, I've got some DVDs as well that I thought you guys might be interested in. Start off with the newest one. So this only came today, but I've spun it a couple of times, so I may as well show it. This is a Scottish band, I think they're from Glasgow, called Vuil, V-U-I-L. I'm not quite sure what that means, but Google Translate says it's Dutch for dirt, but I don't know if that's a relation at all. The EP is called Hell. Beautiful artwork, which I think is kind of lost on a CD. They are releasing this on vinyl towards the end of the year, but I couldn't wait. They're listed here as a two-piece, but I think they're a three-piece. They don't list a drummer, so I don't know whether they've recently had a lineup change. It's a six-track EP. It's kind of speed metal. If you think early Venom crossed with Motorhead and a bit of traditional heavy metal chucked in as well, and you have Vuil. So that came out this week, and I don't know if it's because I just jumped on it and bought it. It's a Bandcamp, so again, check out them on Bandcamp and you can stream it for free. But they also chucked in this as well, which is British Steel is it's a compilation of new wave of traditional heavy metal bands from the UK, and Vuil is one of the tracks on here. It's brand new, it's sealed. Now I already have a copy of this. I bought this when it came out, and they just chucked these two in together. Nice little freebie. So I'm going to keep that sealed, and either it will go out as in some VCLT for somebody who I think might appreciate it, or I'm pandering with the idea if I ever get to 500 subs, which will be a while away, I may chuck that in as an extra prize as well. We'll see how long away that is. But yeah, check out Vuil on Bandcamp. Next up, Music Magpie is, I think it's a German company, and they're one of these companies that will buy all your secondhand CDs. You know, when you scan them in, and they'll give it to you at a vastly reduced price, but it's an easy way of getting rid of large quantities of old CDs and what have you. I saw they were advertising that they were doing a collaboration with Nuclear Blast Records and doing 2 CDs for a fiver. They also sell new stuff as well. So I had a look at the catalogue that they had there and picked up. Oh, I need to sort my camera out, it keeps freezing. Anyway, I was saying, I picked up 6 CDs on their 2 for £10 series, and rather bizarrely, they sent all 6 CDs individually in padded envelopes, rather than send them all together. I got 6 packages, which seemed a complete waste of money and resources. But which 6 did I get? So first up, I got Doro, Raise Your Fist. I was interested. I don't have anything from Doro other than the 80s stuff. I was just interested to hear what she was like now. And to be honest with you, she's kept the same formula. She's a bit like, I guess, like bands like Motorhead and AC/DC, where I like everything I hear, but you know, they had their formula, they stuck to it, it worked for them, it was very good. But I don't feel the need to own their entire catalogue. I would pick up stuff if I saw it cheap, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get all the Motorhead records or all the AC/DC records. I'm kind of happy with the subset I've got, and I think Doro falls into that category. It's good, it's just not spectacular. Although on here there are a couple of good tracks. So there's a duet with Lemmy called "It Still Hurts," which is kind of nice, a bit of a ballad. Hero, which is a tribute to, where is he? To Ronnie James Dio, and here she is with Lemmy at the bottom there. So it's a good album. It's it just doesn't. There's just not really a lot added to what I knew from her from the 80s. There's even a song which I think it might be a Warlock song. This is yeah, Für Immer on Triumph and Agony. There's even a song that kind of matches that. Again, it's a Free Heart, Free Heart, I don't know, Human Rights in German, and it's a similar sort of formula where the song title's in German, the lyrics are in English, but the chorus is in German. Again, it's not bad. It's just a steady formula. So I don't think I will particularly look out for anything by Doro unless I saw something super cheap. Next up, a band I've seen a few people show on vinyl. This is Nervosa, Victim of Yourself. This is a 3-piece all-girl thrash metal band. It's not really my kind of thrash metal, to be honest with you. It's all a little bit too frantic, and it's okay. The reason I bought this is I wanted to give them a go, because there's a 3-day, I guess you can call it a festival in Edinburgh coming up in around August time, I think, and these are one of the bands that are playing, so I thought I'd give them a go, and I think they will be really good to see live. I just I've not got myself in the mood for listening to this so much. It's just not really my cup of tea with thrash. I've actually shown these out of order. This wasn't one of the Nuclear Blast ones. This is one I picked up a while ago, Napalm Records. So let's get back on track with Nuclear Blast. These impromptu videos. So Hell, Human Remains. This is a band I am familiar with. Mike Allen turned me onto them. And this is great stuff. So this is basically a project by a guy called Andy Sneap. He's been around since the 80s. He was a member of, what's that band called? Race Against Time. But this is really, really good. It's kind of straight up heavy metal, but it's really well produced. It's got a really rich sound, and it's almost kind of like a symphonic, theatrical kind of metal. In fact, it's very theatrical. If you look at the back cover there, I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And so Andy Sneap is actually one of the producers of the new Judas Priest album, Firepower, and he's the guy that is actually going to be playing guitar for them on stage in the live shows. And if you listen to that, you can. I think he sounds like he would do a fantastic job of Judas Priest. He obviously knows Judas Priest really well enough to produce their album, which everybody is raving about. So I think if you're going to go and get to see Judas Priest, I don't think you'll be disappointed by the replacement. Another band I've recently got into, thanks to Mike Allen, and that is Grand Nagus. This is Triumph and Power. Again, this is epic, sword wielding heavy metal, kind of Man of War-ish, but without the egos. So I think even Rob, Black Star Vinyl, you would like them. Scorpion Child, self-titled album. This is more sort of hard rock than metal, but again, really, really good album. Get them out. And the last of the 6 I got in the deal was Death Angel. Now my Death Angel collection is fairly slim. I think I've only actually got 2 Death Angel albums, Frolic in the Park and the latest one that they had out recently. My memory is failing me tonight. What was that called? There's the one with the moth on the front. The Evil Divide. That's it. It's good having a handy record shelf above when you're doing videos. This is my kind of thrash. So this, not so much. This, yes, every day of the week I could listen to this. Really, really well produced, just fantastic thrash metal. The Dream Calls for Blood, and killer artwork on there as well. So that's my little CD haul for you. Oh no, I've got one more. That was 5, wasn't it? So this one I was reading the wee booklet. So this is an album I've been looking at on vinyl for some time, and I wasn't sure whether to pull the trigger. It's never been particularly cheap, but when I saw this for a £5 on CD, I jumped at it, and it's the Metal Allegiance project. Now Metal Allegiance is kind of similar to David Grohl's Probot, where he got together a load of musicians and produced an album. But this is kind of I'm gonna have to read some of this because there's lots of contributors to this album if you're not aware of them. So the backbone of the band is Dave Ellison from Megadeth, Mike Portnoy, Dream Theater, Alex Skolnick from Testament. So they're pretty much on most of the tracks, and they have a hand in the writing of them. But the singers tend to be different on each song, and so there's contributions here from, as I said, Megadeth, Testament, Dream Theater, Lamb of God, Slayer, Exodus, Mastodon, Pantera, Trivium, King's X, Hatebreed, Sepultura, Machine Head, Anthrax. In fact, the last song on here, Charlie Benante, actually plays guitar on here. Dillinger Escape Plan, Periphery, Death Angel, Judas Priest, Iced Earth, and Arch Enemy. And it's really good. There's a few songs that are more sort of death metal vocals, which aren't really my cup of tea so much, but the music is absolutely killer. It is, it, in essence, it's a thrash metal album, but because they've got so many different styles of musicians on here, it it ebbs and flows between maybe some speed, slows it down a bit, and thrash metal as well. But I would thoroughly recommend Metal Allegiance as an album to check out. 15 minutes in, gotta go a bit quicker. So next up, this is a kind of a package. Anvil the movie and the story of Anvil the book. I watched this a year or two ago, enjoyed it, found the book for cheap, read the book. The book gives so much more. The book isn't just the story of the DVD. There's a lot more background to the history of Anvil. And if you read the book and then watch the DVD, as I did again, you get a lot more out of the DVD. You kind of feel you know the guys are just a little bit better in the way they think, and it's almost like the tragic story of the book explains more about what really went wrong and why they didn't really make it, and a lot of the bad choices that they made or others made on their behalf. So thoroughly recommend these two together. Read the book first, then watch the movie. A couple of reference books. This one, I believe, Too Much Metal. Leo is Barely Enough. Showed this one, and I had to get a copy of it. It's the New Wave of British Heavy Metal Encyclopedia by Malk Macmillan, and it is absolutely stuffed with every new wave of British heavy metal band you have heard of, and all the others that you have not heard of. Fantastic reference material. A little bit lighter reading than that. I picked this up for a couple of quid from a charity shop. It's the Rough Guide to Heavy Metal, so it's a series of like the Rough Guide holiday books, and it just basically gives a little bit of background and highlights some of the better albums from a bunch of heavy metal bands from the 80s through to, when was this published? 2009, I think. Oh, 2005 was the first edition, so nice kind of reference to have and grab and read while looking at listening to music. Next up, now this isn't metal, but this was a great read as well. Again, it's a book that has an accompanying DVD. The book's called Last Shop Standing by a chap called Graham Jones. Whatever happened to record shops? It was written kind of before the recent vinyl resurgence, and it's a tale about so Graham Jones is a guy who was basically went around shops selling CDs to the various shops, and it's his journey around and all the contacts and all the stories he made with all the various record and CD shops on his route. And he just sort of talks about the record shops that he's worked with that are still in existence today, and discusses whether he feels they'll be one of the last shops standing. It's an absolutely fantastic read. So it's not about metal, but it's stories about various shops. It's all based in the UK. So if you have an interest in music shops in the UK, I bet most of you out there in the UK will know about the record shops in here. It lists Spillers Records that I used to go to when I lived in Cardiff, Selector Disc when I was in Nottingham, and unfortunately I don't think any of the record shops it lists in Edinburgh are still around. Oh, they're on Record Shack, yeah. So the Record Shack's in here as well. So great read. There's a second edition out, which I'm going to try and pick up if I can to see if it covers the vinyl resurgence. The DVD, again, complements the book perfectly well, and it's with Graham Jones kind of interviewing some kind of UK celebrities. So there's likes of Billy Braggs in here, Johnny Marrs in here, Norman Cook, Paul Weller, and just about their experiences buying records when they were younger and what record shops mean to them, and some store owners from around the UK as well. So great little complimentary package there. Now this was amazing. This kind of blew me away for a few days. So here I have a book, a DVD, and a CD. This is all about a band called Acressa Cauda. They are the perhaps the only, or certainly at the time, the only heavy metal band from Iraq. And the book is Heavy Metal Baghdad. And it basically goes into their story, their origins, about how they learned English from bootleg Metallica CDs, all the way through to them forming a band, having to flee Iraq to Syria, and then on to the US, and eventually meeting the likes of Metallica at a show. And so the book is brilliant. I would thoroughly recommend the book. It's a really good read. And when you see a lot of bands writing about war, these guys basically were in it. They weren't soldiers; they were just civilians, and they had to deal with everything that went over on in Iraq, when friends and things dying, and quite a harrowing story. But what I would, and they also made a documentary as well, Heavy Metal in Baghdad. This is on YouTube. Again, it's a brilliant watch, but what I would recommend doing is picking up the book, reading the book up until the point where the documentary crew turns up, stop reading the book, watch the movie, then go back to the book, and then they start talking about how the documentary affected them, and sort of the secrecy they had to go around before the Western occupation of Iraq. These guys could quite happily walk around wearing Slayer, Megadeth t-shirts, Metallica t-shirts, but after, they were considered symbols of westernization, and you get shot by an insurgent or something for being seen in them. So it's a really interesting read to see a completely different culture. For those two go together, and when you've read, watched, and gone back and read, this is their, it's more of an EP. It's a 4-track CD that's actually produced by Alex Skolnick of Testament, and you can hear the band that they have become. It's called Only the Dead See the End of the War. The tracks are Message from Baghdad, Garden of Stones, Massacre in the Unknown. And it draws upon their life experiences of growing up in Iraq, and everything they've had to go through. The sound is, there's a Metallica element to the sound, but there's also a Testament element in there as well, which obviously Alex Skolnick has had some influence on them. But if you're into expanding your horizons and checking out something new, I would recommend these as a package. Book, movie, book, then listen to the CD, and that really consumed me for a week or so, and it's a pretty good CD as well. I think that's about it. The book I have in motion at the moment is Bruce Dickinson's autobiography. It's okay. It's a good read. It's not a book that grips me so I can't put it down, but it's an easy one to pick up and carry on where you left off. Not enough dirt and debauchery in here for my depraved mind, but interesting nonetheless. Right, 23 minutes, that's a long one. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon.